Yeah, so I love it when Jesus challenges me. It's hard. I kind of hate it too, but I love it because then it gives me a chance to grow. And there's a particular part of chapter 6 that, is really challenging. It's really calling me to grow a bit, and I hope maybe it'll call you to grow too. So there's really only 4 scenes in chapter 6. It starts off with Jesus' disciples plucking grain as they're walking through a field on the Sabbath. And the Pharisees are like, wait, what are you working on the Sabbath for? And he's like, because we're hungry. And Jesus is pointing out the purpose of religion and its relationship to people. Do people exist to help the religion, or does the religion exist to help the people? And Jesus takes the second stance, that our faith practice and our devotion to God and the ways we do that together, that when we do that together, we call that church. And when the church gets organized, we call that religion. And the purpose of that is to aid in us growing closer to God and loving more. And when the church gets that backwards and thinks that the people are there to help the institution, then we're not really doing it right. Jesus points that out. That's not the challenging part. It is a challenge, but not the one I want to talk about today. The next scene, he heals a man with a withered hand on the Sabbath. Again, drawing home this point that religion is there to help the people, not the other way around. Then he names the apostles in verses 12 through 16. And then the rest of the chapter, verses 17 through 49, is what we call the Sermon on the Plain. You may have heard of the Sermon on the Mount, which is the 5th chapter of Matthew. This is Luke's version of that same scene, except it doesn't happen on a mountain. It happens on a level field, and so we call it the Sermon on the Plain. Another difference is in Matthew, we begin the 5th chapter with what we call the Beatitudes. Blessed are these folks, blessed are those folks, blessed is this, blessed is that. This happens in Luke, but then Jesus immediately follows it up with woes. So we get blessings and woes. And it's interesting to look at who gets blessed and who gets woes in Luke's. But still, that's not the part that I find really challenging. The part I find challenging begins in verse 32. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. If you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. But love your enemies, do good and lend, expect nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High. For he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. If I am honest with you, I don't want God to be merciful to people that I consider an enemy. That's not what I want. But that's what God does. And that's a good thing, because that means God is also merciful to me when people think that I am their enemy. And that's the great thing about God. God doesn't differentiate between worthy and unworthy, or these people because of their race or gender or sexual orientation or political affiliation or their worst act of their past or the ways they have organized their society. God still acts with justice and mercy and righteousness for those folks, as well as me and as well as you. This is really challenging. This is really hard. I am much more likely to love those who love me. And it takes a lot of effort to be compassionate and to care for those that wish to harm me. But that's the challenge. If you find this challenging as well, or if you have insights or wisdom about how to go about loving our enemies, put that in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. And we'll be getting on into chapter 7 tomorrow, so I hope you'll tune in. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We really hope you are enjoying these reflections on the Gospel of Luke. Stay tuned, as we're going to have some special guests joining us soon as we continue this chapter by chapter journey towards Christmas through this season of Advent with the Gospel of Luke. If you haven't already, please click the subscribe button down below. Also, hit that thumbs up. That really helps out the video and increases our circulation and our proclamation of the gospel. And hit the bell. That way you're notified and you can stay on top of this devotional journey through the Gospel of Luke. Again, we hope you are enjoying these reflections, and we hope that you remember that no matter what, God loves you more than you can possibly imagine.